So, are UX bootcamps actually worth it? Now, the short answer for those who just want the answer straight away, I would say maybe. And if you want to ask me whether a UX bootcamp will give you a surefire way to get a job right after, I would say definitely not. Now, here's what I think, right? Well, not what I think, well, what I know, right? So, UX bootcamp are essentially like an introduction, right, to the career. In my opinion, when you do a UX bootcamp, they teach you all the fundamentals, bit by bit, of everything UX has to offer. However, it does not go into detail in any of those specific sections. For example, if we're talking about using the software Figma, right? Now, the bootcamp teaches you the fundamentals of Figma, how to make prototypes with basic prototype animations, making components. That's really about it, to be honest. Like the grid system and such, right? But what it fails to teach the students, well, I would say it's mainly due to the time restriction, because at least for me, it was a span of 3 months, this bootcamp, right? And within those 3 months, it just did not, it wasn't feasible for them to teach me everything about Figma unless they're sacrificing some of the theoretical knowledge they were trying to teach us during that time. So if you ask any of the students that came out of the bootcamp, I think 95% of them will tell you that they do not know how auto layout works. None of them know how auto layout works. And I feel like that is kind of a problem, because that's kind of like a very big part of Figma, right? Fully utilizing auto layout to your advantage when it comes to building your prototypes. So that's just one aspect of it. During my time in the bootcamp, I found that I wanted to learn a bit more on information architecture, to do with websites specifically, because in my mind, I understood the basics of it, but I did not know how to fully utilize that concept when making my own website from scratch, right? So I understand what information architecture means, like how the website is structured essentially, but I don't know how to apply that knowledge when I'm having my own personal project. And so I think, there are many instances like that in the bootcamp where they give you the knowledge and you may understand it to a very basic level, but you fail to apply it, or fail to understand how to apply it onto actual projects. So I'll say those are like the problems with the bootcamp. And this is mainly due to the time duration of the bootcamp. For me, it was a 3-month duration. We started class at 9 a.m. every day. And then we ended class. Well, class technically ended at 5 p.m. But realistically, some people, if they finish their personal work on that day, like of their project, then they can leave earlier. I was one of those people who just leave at 1 p.m. every day. Mainly because I had no sense of pressure, because most of my peers that were in the bootcamp were transitioning from a different career, whereas I'm actually a university student who done the bootcamp during the summer between my second and third year of university. And so it was like the perfect time, and I knew coming out of the bootcamp, I still had 1 extra year to just clean up everything that I picked up from the bootcamp, whereas everybody else was stressed because they've given up their jobs to undertake the bootcamp and they need to see results very fast, which is completely understandable. So on that note, I think it's quite important to understand that with boot camps, it is very stressful, as I've heard from all my peers, and you have to make that time commitment. It's not necessarily 9 to 5, right? So it's not just class hours, because after the class, when you go home, you still have to work on your personal project, because how the bootcamp system works is that they teach you the fundamentals, at least for my one, they teach you the fundamentals in the morning, and then in the afternoon you apply those fundamentals in a group activity maybe, or like a project. And then you during the entire boot camp you work on a capstone project, which is your own personal project that you choose, which you will essentially show off in front of friends and family on demo day, right? Which is like on the final week of the boot camp. But essentially that final project, 90% of the time you spend on that project will be at home, which is, you can imagine that is very time consuming, right? Because if you do it at home, essentially you're eating away all your free time. You won't have free time essentially. But that's one sacrifice you just have to make when you try to speed run essentially to a career change, or to fully transition to a UX career. But let's talk about the benefits of a UX career, of a UX bootcamp, sorry. So the benefit is, of course, 3 months and you learn everything. You get like a buffet essentially of everything you kind of need to know bit by bit of the UX field. You have a lot of projects, group projects, your personal project, and you have a hackathon. Well, I don't know if this is exclusive to my bootcamp, but if you do have a hackathon, essentially it's a 24-hour system where you have like a outside company come in and they give you a project brief, and essentially you have to complete that brief within 24 hours, and it's a competition. The person with the best results wins, right? And you'll be working in a group with software engineers and data scientists. So then you can also understand the dynamics between software engineers, data scientists, and UX designers, which I'll just explain to you very short. Essentially, the data scientists, they find the relevant kind of data, correlations, and insights that may be useful for the UX designer to formulate a problem statement and a solution. And essentially they'll draft up and come up with initial designs, which would then get translated into an actual working, functioning app or a website, which will be done by the software engineers. And it teaches you that it is very important to communicate and have some fundamental knowledge of each other's fields, right? Anyways, that's besides the point really. But yeah, that is a very big aspect that you won't really get if you don't do a UX bootcamp, if you, for example, learn from online. So I know a lot of people do the Google course certificate, and I also started doing that before the bootcamp, but very big difference. A, nobody marks your work personally. It's peer feedback, right? So you're not getting professional feedback or tailored feedback. And B, there's no practical experience, right? And I do think it is very important that, you have that kind of interaction with group mates, so you know what a working environment feels like. It's not perfect, I would imagine, to a real work scenario, but it's close enough, right? It's close as you can get to having a simulated one. In terms of the people who are in the bootcamp, they'll come from, in most cases, they'll come from many different careers as they're trying to transition, because bootcamps are often used for career transitions. And I feel like there's one problem, well, not really a problem, but I've noticed like other people kind of saying this, where they feel a bit anxious, where some of the students in the cohort are much more advanced or pick up concepts much faster than you. And this may be because they have a graphic design background or any other background, right, that are creativity related, right, in the creative industry. But what you need to realize is that, everybody has their unique advantages, and ultimately, it's up to you how you use your time after the bootcamp to get to that level, to catch up to that level. Because I guarantee you, nobody is getting, not nobody, but like 95% of people are not getting the job straight out of the bat from a bootcamp. It's just the competition, the supply and demand, the competition has become so high, where a simple boot camp. Everybody has a boot camp now, or everybody has a degree related to UX, like human computer interaction. You need to be special, right? You need to stand out. And I just don't think you can do that within 3 months. And it's like telling me, for example, I know this is like a stretch, right? I'm from an economics background. I study economics in university. Let's just say I want to be an accountant. You're telling me that I can be an accountant in 3 months if I have no knowledge of economics or maths. Like, it sounds kind of impossible, right? In the same manner, but a less, like the gap is slightly less in the UX field, right? I would say it's essentially that. So like, you can't expect results in 3 months. But what it does for you, the bootcamp essentially gives you a roadmap, a red carpet, which you can essentially skip a lot of steps. And essentially, after you come out of the bootcamp, you should have a sense of direction and understanding of the entire field and industry in general, right? So that's a big plus for the bootcamp. But also, a big negative of it is that because it's 3 months of intensive school, right, 9 to 5, it does cost quite a lot of money. Like for me, it cost about 10K originally, but then they did some kind of student discounts. So I got 8K. That's probably their business move. But essentially, £8,000, or I think, I don't know how many dollars that is, probably like more than 10,000. But £8,000 I had to spend on a boot camp, right, for 3 months. Now, for me, it kind of paid off because I used that kind of £8,000 as a motivation, because I think, okay, I'm 8K deep into this career. I can't go back now. I can't change my mind on a whim and then, go to a completely different career, because I just wasted £8,000. So for me, it kind of works in my favor, but I can imagine, a lot of people, they might not have that same kind of mentality. And so if you're the type of person to kind of like change their mind every couple of months or maybe like in a year, I would say don't do the bootcamp. Just, leave it, right? It's just not worth it if you're going to change your mind. But yeah, all of that aside, I would say that UX bootcamps, worth it in the sense that, it gives you an overview of the entire industry, but at the same time, that there are also alternative options, such as pursuing a master's degree in human computer interaction or UX design masters. Or if you're on a budget, you could do a online certificate and then learn independently, which is probably 10-20 times harder, because a lot of jobs they have in the description that you need a bootcamp experience or you need a master's experience. So you're cutting your job market by half essentially. But if it has its own kind of benefits that is way less costly in comparison. And if you want to change your mind later on, you can easily do that, because you're not that deep into money. So you have your 3 options, and I'll say UX is in the middle between masters, which is like a very big commitment, and like independent learning is right in the middle. But any of those 3 options, I would say, is not enough to guarantee you a job. It's a competitive job market, and I would say that you just simply have to be better than other people. It's not about ticking checklist. It's more about, I have to be better than the person that's applying next to me. And in my next video, I'll show you possible ways you can do that, which are methods that I'm currently doing in order to apply next year. And hopefully that will be a solid roadmap if you pursue a bootcamp or not, that you can follow in order to guarantee yourself a job or a foot into the UX industry. Well, that's it. And if you would like to subscribe, please do. And I'll see you guys next time.